All right, friends. Welcome back to the ResQ Show. I'm Chris. That's Taryn.
Howdy.
How are you today, my friend?
I'm quite well. I'm very excited.
Well, good. That's
Yes.
very good indeed. Yes. And so we want to, obviously, as always, tell you about, first of all, the ResQ Show. Please share us. Subscribe to the channel, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. We do have Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. All that stuff is available for you to see and to use. Go there, get it, share it, make it as easy as possible. We couldn't possibly make it any easier. And so while we try to have fun here, obviously the content is pretty serious at times, and we're going to get into all that today. But if we want to hear from you, first and foremost, okay? Just like you're going to hear from our guest today, normal folks, we want to talk to you. If you have any past in this, if you have any experience, if you have any, run-ins with your significant others or whatever it is, you can email us. You can direct message us on Twitter. You see our Twitter handles below. We'll have all this in the description as well. But again, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You could go to our website called ResQShow.com, and you can fill out a form right there, actually, to contact us directly. And I want to show you exactly what it looks like real quick if you haven't. Here's our site. Here's the most recent episode on video. Here's the most recent episode on podcast, audio only. So you can get that wherever you get your podcasts as well. Links to actually helping kids, for example, like a lot of folks who are into Q and things are all about helping the children out and rescuing them. Well, we've got actual organizations who would love to get your help. So the links are right there. Here is the form that I mentioned. We speak with you. You fill it out. You can donate if you are into what we're doing. And also the cool part is we have a whole page of notes and resources per episode. So going back to our episode 1, you see all these things to look at. Episode 2, 3, 4, on and on and on. And then we'll update it with today's as well. Anyway, so take advantage of the site called ResQ Show.com. And it's ResQ Show with a Q, obviously, no matter where you find us. Okay. Anything else on your mind, Taryn, before we bring our honored guest on today?
Not really. I'm very excited. We're going to speak with Kim today. And I think we all have a dysfunctional relationship story, at least one under our belts in life. But it isn't often that a relationship has to end because of ideology that is more and more radicalized. And these days we're seeing that. We're, in several groups. So I think Kim has a lot of insight telling her story just in that whole process. And we are really honored to have her on the show today.
Amen. Then let's do that right now. Here is Kim. Ms. Kim, we thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Welcome to the ResQ Show.
Thanks, you guys. It's a pleasure talking with you. Appreciate it.
So tell us, give us the miniature version of what the heck happened and why is it been so dramatic?
Well, in a nutshell, I met a lovely, wonderful human being. We met on Match.com. Turns out lives down the street from me. We had a lot of friends in common and family and so forth. He had represented himself as a centrist. We first started going out, and I learned he really was a conservative, had voted for Trump. Says he didn't like Trump, but he voted for him because he wanted change. And I was perfectly happy. I could deal with that. I am not ashamed to say I am a liberal. I am a Christian, which we both had in common. But once Q came into our relationship, and he sort of fell down that rabbit hole within about a month of Q going live. And it changed our relationship. It changed him. He became very, very involved online, very passionate about QAnon, particularly the implications it had within the Spygate and the government parts of it. He was certainly not, a flat earther or a lizard guy or anything like that, but became very, very impassioned about QAnon. And 4 years later, now 4.5, we're no longer together. He decided that he could not and did not want to be with me because of my politics. And so he has continued on his path. Although it's interesting because now he doesn't so much talk about QAnon as much anymore. He still talks about all of their platform and their beliefs, but I think there's a part of him that has recognized that putting yourself out there as a QAnon follower is not necessarily a good thing.
Wow.
So here we are today, and we're no longer, well, as of about a month ago, we're no longer speaking because the dark times are coming, he says. And because I'm not woke and I'm not on his team, he will not reach out a hand to me, nor will he help me even if I call. So to which I said, doesn't sound very Christian to me. You do what you have to do.
Man. Yeah, that's even beyond. I mean, relationships, right? Sometimes they just don't work out. People go their own separate ways, but they're friendly. You carry on some kind of normal, speaking arrangement, or if you need something, you reach out to them. It goes without saying. Would think, but then there's this other level now.
Well, exactly. This was the man we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. We lived together. Our kids knew each other, and our families, we had started to integrate our families and things. And to go from that to, I don't care how much you reach out or call to me, I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to hold out my hand for you. So there's just something, I think, in the mindset of people that are susceptible to getting in this deep that alters something. And I don't understand it. I do not understand the psychology of people who get into these kinds of things and how that changes them and how that changes their interactions with others.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, as a Christian, if someone asks for your coat, give them your coat. Anyone,
Exactly.
Yeah, extremely off brand, I would say.
No, that's exactly right. And I said to him, my response back was, I don't care where you are, what you believe, or he's become kind of enamored with some of these online false prophets. I said, I will always be here for you. I will always, if whatever you need, I will always be here for you, because that is who I am, and that is what the Jesus that I follow, this is how he'd want us to behave. This is what he would prescribe for all of us. So in my mind, pretty fundamental.
Yes. Do you find that it's logical to say that you have been dehumanized by your loved one, your ex-loved one?
Oh, without a doubt. And it became a point, and I think it is for a lot of people whose relationships suffer. I became nothing more than a political punching bag. And I have said this to him. I have said, I think for some of us, I can continue to love somebody who has a different political viewpoint than I do, because politics should not define who we are as people. I can love you knowing everything I know about what you said, what you've done, what you believed. He did not have that ability. To him, I just became another awful, liberal, horrid, hideous human being. And he stopped seeing me for the person that he fell in love with and wanted to spend the rest of his life with.
Right. He had that ability to be reasonable at first.
Yes.
With whom you met, and then that was eroded through the material. I don't like to say propaganda, but I guess I will.
No.
Propaganda.
Right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And the more that QAnon infiltrated every aspect of social media, and YouTube included, and Twitter and everything else, I used to tell the story at night when he can't sleep. He's got his phone in his hand and he's up reading Q drops and trying to decipher and following all, to the point where it became just a constant. We would go out with friends and he'd be sitting at the table with his phone, while we're all having fun and bowling and eating and drinking and whatnot. And he's on his phone waiting for the next Q thing to come up. So it became just pervasive. It just surrounded us. It was like having a third person in our relationship that was doing everything they could to make sure that we were going to be torn apart. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Do you remember when approximately this was, and what was it, a specific aspect or topic that drew him in?
Well, it all started about a month. QAnon became live. It was end of October 2017 is when QAnon made its first drops and first whatevers. And he started getting involved in it heavily, in about November, the very next month.
Wow.
And I remember it was not until February then that he started to sort of red pill me, if you will. With YouTube videos. The Great Awakening was one of them, the original Great Awakening video that was done, and showing me that. And then one day sitting at dinner, and he shows me a video and a I don't know, article about how Hillary Clinton was a pedophile and she was eating babies and eating children and things, to which I, pick up the cell phone, throw it on the floor. And I said, this is absolutely bullshit. And I don't want to hear about it again. I don't want to see about it again, whatever. But that started this process of this slow trying to red pill. Then up went a poster in our house, the QAnon Spygate poster. Then he made a bingo card that showed who was going to be executed or put into Gitmo or lynched. And so he had this bingo card on the refrigerator as QAnon moved forward, and he identified all who the bad people were. So this just started to surround, and then having podcasts going constantly, all of the QAnon influencers and their podcasts and things going in the background continually, or in the car when we'd be driving and listening to Patriot Radio, and then Dan Bongino, and on and on and on and on it goes. So it started to surround, and eventually, meaning our normal life of going sailing and riding on his motorcycle and gardening and going out to eat and walking were happening less and less and less, because more and more time was being taken up with propaganda.
So you're kind of an expert on the content. You were exposed to quite a lot of it.
Oh, I was exposed to it every single day for years, and I'm certainly not an expert, but I know more than I wish I knew. I wish I had never heard of QAnon. I wish I was blissfully ignorant about it all, and sadly that's not. I had to learn about it, because at the end of the day, while I was adamant that I was not going to get sucked into this, I made the conscious decision that I was going to try to fight QAnon. I was going to try to expose QAnon for what it was, which was the beginning of the end of our relationship, as you can imagine.
So you developed a red pill immunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I found this amazing group of people on Twitter, and also on Reddit, and who were immensely helpful in helping me talk about how the cult aspect of QAnon, the history of QAnon. And it was so interesting because even back in the early days, Jack Posobiec and you know who Jack is at OAN, actually reached out to me and he said, you need to get your then boyfriend out of Q. You need to do whatever you can to get him out, get him involved in the community, get him involved in church, get him back on your sailboat, you guys, and doing all of the things that you could do, which was really interesting. Later on, then Jack ended up blocking me because he had this sort of on again, off again relationship with certain QAnon influencers. But so it becomes something that I was committed to trying to shine a light on what QAnon is and how dangerous it can be in any kind of a relationship. And that was the beginning of the end for us.
Yeah, we're talking with Kim, who's our honored guest today. Really appreciate this time, Kim. And frankly, I feel horrible for you. Just going through this very real, recounting of how something can fall apart, and that's why we named this episode what we did, which is the relationship destroyer. Because unfortunately, you are not alone in this.
No, I'm not.
You're far from it. Many committed relationships have just been obliterated. Same kind of story, like what you're saying. Just so many different folks and walks of life and socioeconomic status. None of that seems to matter at all. It's just buying into this stuff. I'm kind of curious when obviously he was in it from the beginning. From what you're saying,
yes, he was very much so.
That's a little. So was he on like 8chan and stuff like that? Do you even know? Do you care? Or is he going to like these aggregators where the more common entry points? Do you
not to my knowledge? He didn't spend time in 8chan. There were other multiple sources that you could get all of the Q drops and things, and that's where he was spending his time. To the best of my knowledge. But it's, and what has been interesting, I've met with, and I have talked to probably several hundred people as a result of being rather public, I guess, about what happened. He and I were a sort of a public couple on Twitter back at the beginning. And I've talked to a lot of people. I know that there's just so many people. I know many couples that are divorced. I know family members that are no longer living together or speaking to each other, and got involved early on in this subreddit group, the QAnon Casualties, which has a huge following and stories that every day are that just tear you apart when you read about what has happened. And it's not just political opposition. That is something that can be weathered. You can have a Democrat and a Republican marry, live together, love each other, have families, and still respect each other. This is so much worse than that. I mean, this is not merely having a lively political discussion at the end of the day, about the economics or whatever it is. This is not that.
Right, because this doesn't allow opposition or reasonable disagreements, right?
Right.
Either you're in all the way or you're one of them, right? You're
precisely. Yeah. And thus, they actually QAnon has published booklets how to red pill somebody. I mean, they actually lay out how you can convert somebody, which I find astonishing that is something that people would first of all write, and then they talk about we're not a cult. We're all for free thinking, but where we go one, we go all. It's been interesting. In fact, just recently, the ex told me that QAnon is nothing more than a blog. Yep, and there we have the brainwashing step-by-step instructions.
Yeah, obviously, that's my title for it. But I mean, these screen captures are direct
Yes.
for how to do it, like what you're saying. I just want to tell folks, you're not exaggerating.
No.
This is from 8chan, April 2019.
Yeah.
Effective red pilling technique. I mean, it goes on and on and on how to do it. And there's even one that was up for a while on Facebook, how to red pill your wife.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, these are not. Unfortunately, you're not exaggerating. It is really to that level of commitment, I guess, or sickness, where again, like it's your mission. You know, you must do this.
Yeah.
Man, I just wanted to show folks that it's
Well,
yes.
and
it's real.
to your point, I have been. He has tried, and I have been going to a therapist this entire relationship to learn how to cope, how to deal with this, and how to recognize that I was being gaslighted, I was being manipulated. The number of times I was told we can still have a relationship because he knows I love him for all time. And there was a point when I believed he loved me as well. But the number of times that he said, if you would just stop talking, just walk away from Twitter, walk away from Facebook, just stop talking to people, then I'll be with you. So, and I said, well then, okay, I assume then you're going to get off Facebook and Twitter and you're done. You're going to denounce QAnon, right? Oh, no. It's okay for him to continue to be there, but I'm the one that has to change my behavior and my way of thinking. So there's just this interesting, he's tried many different forms and different ways of trying to silence me, trying to get me to stop any narrative I have against QAnon. And with the bonus being, if I do that, then I can have him back in my life.
And basically an attempt to isolate you, which is the first step in kind of controlling someone's belief system. If you're going to put them into an isolated environment.
Yeah. Well, in any new relationship, I mean, two people, all you do is want to spend time together and you want to know each other. And we did, and not long after we met, and probably about 6 months in, he asked me to move in with him, and I did, and he was everything, and this relationship was everything I'd ever dreamt, that I would find at this stage of my life. We both had grown kids and loved many of the same things, and I felt so blessed to have found this person. And then, of course, about a year into it, along comes, QAnon into the whole thing and changed the entire complexion. We had this wonderful, simple, little imperfect, wonderful relationship, and it was amazing. And for most of the time, it was just the two of us. And looking back in hindsight, probably not healthy.
But he's obviously a really great guy, and he's pulled into the, as you say, you adore him. And
here's the thing, he's a brilliant guy. A couple of college degrees. He owned his own company. He's a dad to grown, hugely successful, wonderful kids. Was active in the community. And how does something like this happen to somebody with all of those attributes? Because he's still one of the smartest, funniest, sweetest, or he was, people I've ever known in my life. I'd give anything to have that back again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a giant, massive breakdown of trust that people have kind of experienced.
And so, clearly something happens to people in their lives at some point that does erode the trust of whether, it's government, obviously, local, state, federal government, maybe even the church. I don't know. It just, it's a fascinating thing. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing all kinds of psychologists writing books and things on this as time progresses, because it's a big deal.
And I think I just wanted to go back to this one point. I think the assumption maybe out there is that this is just a bunch of uneducated
No,
hicks from trailers or something like who are into this stuff, and how could anybody be fooled by this? You can't, if you're educated, you couldn't possibly be into this. Not correct.
not correct. Not correct at all. And the number of people that I have met, not just online but I have met people locally here that face to face that I have sat down and talked to, and that are in the same boat I am, and their spouses or significant others are all also extremely successful, very, very smart people. So yeah, we're not talking, quote, the deplorables. I hate to use that, but that's what people assume QAnon people are. And yeah, there's some interesting mix of people in that contingency of QAnon. But there's also this whole other thing, like my ex, very, very smart, wonderful guy, that something happened that made this all seem to him to be the truth.
Right. That's the key, isn't it? Sorry, Terry,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, when you take somebody like this ex of yours and break down, I mean, have you ever asked him, or do you know where did he decide to become comfortable with accepting things that are said online as some kind of hard evidence, or of these high crimes like baby eating and
The response is always, well, I don't have definitive proof, but what if? Everything is well, just because I can't prove it's true doesn't mean it isn't true. So it becomes really hard. It's almost impossible to have a fruitful discussion with somebody who so embraces conspiracy theories. If you have ever had to go down the hole of trying to have a conversation with a conspiracy theorist about anything, the tables are continually flipped and the conversation is continually flipped. There is never any kind of a good outcome. And right now, what's interesting to me is I went back and I have kind of brought my pastor into some conversations with me, because there's been a disturbing trend with not just my ex, but with others that have become that were just really good, honest Christian people, doing the right thing and supporting causes and helping people and working in the community and going on missions and things. And all of that seems to have gone by the wayside, to the point where now we see a lot of these people just embracing some of these, the televangelist type people, and sort of almost denouncing our church, when I've asked him, how do you justify believing what you believe, knowing what we know about the teachings of Jesus?
Yeah.
And of course, then there's the immediate changing of the subject. We're not going to talk about that, because there's no possible way that you can answer. You can't honor and follow Jesus Christ and be a QAnon follower. There is absolutely no, they are so diametrically opposed.
I'm so glad you said this, Kim, because this is my grave concern this whole time. I've only known about it since 2018, but when this election cycle started, the past year and a half, and we all saw this like snowballing, like slow motion car wreck, that what's going to happen. You can just see what's coming. To have believers just get continually sucked into this. And I'm like you. I'm like, how do you rectify that? I mean, how do you reconcile these belief systems, especially? Okay, we don't have to believe everything the same, and okay, maybe things, conspiracy theories, maybe some have validity, blah blah blah. But if you're making, like you said, if you're making a chart on the wall with people who are going to be executed, that's got to be a red flag.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think we're out of the gospel mood. I don't know what this has to do with the Lord. I don't know what this has to do with your calling, being saved.
It doesn't.
Nothing.
It doesn't.
Zero. I mean, this is like, in fact, it's the very opposite. It seems like the enemy has got you, because now we're talking about looking forward to folks being killed. That's got to be, yeah, for you. I mean, obviously, the person who's not into it, that's obvious. Hey,
Right.
look what you're into right now. But going through it, doesn't that, I don't know, I guess help me. I need help. Somebody's got to tell me, how does this work as a believer to suddenly be okay with this stuff?
Oh, no, that's exactly. And this was my conversation. I've had numerous conversations one-on-one with my minister at my church, and where he and I, the ex and I, both joined this church together. And when we first started dating, we were committed to finding a church that we both felt at home with. And we did. We were very active within this church. We served and volunteered. We were there every Sunday. And it's basically has boiled down to, when I have shown some of the text messages and the things I've had from the ex, his comment to me is that, first of all, this is not him speaking. This is not your ex speaking. This is Satan, and this is Satan doing Satan's work. And so, at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time praying for him, because this is not the man that I met and fell in love with. This doesn't resemble anything like this guy. So so the religious side of it all has been just a huge struggle for me, because if in fact my hope is that he's going to have an awakening, and it is not going to be the QAnon kind of awakening. This is going to be a day that he's going to wake up and see that he's lost a lot of people that loved him and cared about him because of his position on all these matters.
Yeah. It's really difficult to wrap my head around a believer, a follower of Christ, saying, yes, I am comfortable with the great possibility that I may be bearing false witness of the worst kind of crimes that any human can commit.
Right.
We're not judge and jury. The political system is responsible for
right.
crime. And even if we are trying to suss something out online, where do we become comfortable not accepting the kind of internet rumor as evidence? It's not evidence.
Right. No, it's not evidence. And, laying out conspiracy theories. And I know, and I get it. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible, talks about, things happening and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I'm talking about the here and now, and how you're justifying your behavior, your thoughts, your deepest hopes and wishes. There are good people that are going to be lynched, executed, put in Gitmo, whatever. And this was a day-to-day conversation. And at first it starts out, okay, who's going to go to jail first? Is it going to be so-and-so or Donald Trump? Okay, so we joked about that back and forth, but this gets carried on way beyond that conversation of, let's make a bet who goes to jail first or something. This is not that. This is really hoping and praying and believing that some really, really good people in this world are going to be executed.
And by the way, not to interrupt you, Kim, but as we saw on January 6th, you can, even someone in your party, your side of things, your fellow believer, Mike Pence, can turn into the enemy. And
Yeah.
You can go around asking for him to be hanged, and you're willing to be the one who does it. That should freak everyone out.
Should
I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
I just want to tell folks who are watching, because most of them are like us, which are conservative Christian type folks. We've got to. I was told when this was going on in the summer and the early fall last year, when this was really ramping up, and all of a sudden all these theories are just exploding everywhere, and everyone's believing it. I was told it's no big deal. Like, who cares? I said, there's salvation of souls at stake here. I mean, souls are really in danger because of what this stuff is doing. And if you buy these, hook, line, and sinker, all these things, then I really question, not that I'm questioning your salvation, like, I think you're really in danger permanently.
Totally.
And you're going to see things come out eventually, like you're saying, like who's going to be dead next, who's going to go to jail, who's going to be, hanged in public. This is crazy Hitler stuff. This isn't godly, obviously. So anyway, I just wanted to tell folks and show folks that, yes, this is just a testimony that there's real consequences to accepting these things, and to not thinking twice about it, and to not taking advice, and to not listening to your wife or your fiance, your significant other, maybe, who's trying to get you out. So I guess my question is, Kim, and this might not be answerable at all, but if someone is in your, shoes, but they're still together, but they're really feeling this tension and pressure, what do you recommend?
Well, I guess the biggest takeaway that I can put out there is a couple of things. First of all, do not mock this person. Do not poke fun at them. Do not call them little nicknames. I used to call QAnon followers Q-tips, just because in its early days, it was mostly baby boomers, initially, that were really sucked into this. And so I called them all Q-tips. And that made him livid, angry. So I learned that did nothing to help keep lines of communication open. So don't mock, don't call names, nothing like that. Ask questions. I used to read everything that he would send me. And I did that for a couple of reasons, because I wanted him to see that I was interested in what he was following. I was curious. I wanted to try to understand what had him so enamored. So he was sending me all this stuff to read. We even went to a Convention of States meeting here locally. He took me to, because he's really big into that whole thing. And so I willingly went. And the goal was always for me to have a clearer understanding of what it was that he was so impassioned with. So ask a lot of questions. Doesn't mean you have to believe what they're laying out there, if that makes sense. But ask a lot of questions to keep the conversation open, because the minute you start shutting things down and shutting them out, that will be the end of the relationship. And in many instances, that's probably an okay thing, because there may not be any coming back from it all. But the minute you stop having that, at least trying to have some kind of a discourse, that's going to be the end of the relationship. So listen to what they put out in front of you, watch it. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but just try to not close the door on them.
Yeah, that's great advice.
I don't know. I can't say that it worked all that well with me. I mean, this has been ongoing for now. QAnon's been around almost now 4 years. So, this has been an ongoing and kind of a up and down sort of a roller coaster of a relationship because of all that. But without a doubt, I did learn that it's almost impossible, as I said, to have a conversation with somebody that is so ingrained in conspiracy theories. And those are the conversations that I think are okay to say, you know what, I can't have this conversation with you because you're not showing me proof. You just keep showing me more conspiracy things piled on top of conspiracy things. And that's not proof. That's not a good conversation.
Yeah, and to me, this has always been the great danger with this Q thing. Not that it's unique, but that it's like a meta
Right.
View of every conspiracy that you've ever heard.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
QAnon became, because of its growing bandwidth, and I liken it to it became the umbrella organization for all kinds of conspiracy theories. And not everybody in QAnon believes in the lizard people or the alien things or the flat earthers, or the Spygate side of things. It has become this alphabet soup of all kinds of different conspiracy theories, all under the umbrella of QAnon now. I mean, anti-vaxxers, the whole thing. So it has become home to basically all, just because of the incredible bandwidth, which is the one thing that I will give QAnon credit for. Ron Watkins, you created a monster here, an online presence that has been hard to defeat.
Yeah, and the conditioning that we've all undergone online, which we've basically all done to ourselves, is
right.
Online, you can leave your manners at the door. Online, you can be anonymous. Online, we can have anarchy. Online, we can respond unkindly to anyone who disagrees with us. And all of us do it. We do it when those of us who are, trying to reach out to people in the Q movement and kind of pull them out. We do it too.
Yeah, no, right.
It's what you said, don't shut the door on someone. We can't do that in our comments either, no matter what we think.
But you're right. I mean, a lot of people have garnered a tremendous amount of strength, if you will, sitting behind their computer screens and say whatever they want to say, do whatever they want to do. These are the digital warriors. I saw yesterday a post that there's a medal that was given to Ron Watkins for being, kind of like the supreme digital warrior, and it blows my mind. And that people think that this is something to be celebrated, that this is a good thing.
Yeah. Who did Jesus say is our neighbor? If you are a conservative, your neighbor is a liberal. If you're a liberal, your neighbor is a conservative. we're dehumanizing one another. And this is where people don't listen any longer, because I don't have to listen to you. You're so evil. You're so depraved. I've already accepted that.
And not only that, so I'm sorry, Taryn, forgive me.
No, go ahead.
Not only that, but you have your own private walled off society, an ecosystem of just what you want to hear, right?
Yes.
You don't no matter what side you're on. You can go to your own little retreat
silos.
house.
We call them silos.
Yep.
So if you live on Twitter, you kind of are getting a healthy dose of both sides of the story now. If you live only in the world of Telegram and Gab and Rumble, you are so in just a silo where you are just constantly being fed those, that ideology. You're not seeing now the other side. You're not seeing the good things. And that's what's happened in real life too. We've just become, it is so polarizing. We are just, and I don't know how we all start working to find our way back to a middle ground. I don't have the answers to that.
Yeah, I don't either. But like you say, it's like a natural. This consequence is now they're all running to, like you say, you go to Gab or Rumble, whatever the new thing is, because you've been booted by these other places, so now they're the enemy, right?
Yeah, right.
Twitter's bad, Facebook's bad. They're censoring us. We've got to go to this new place. So it's like a vicious cycle. It's never going to get better unless, right, we as individuals stop for a second,
right,
and examine and if you're a believer, you go to God and say, God, you got to tell me, help me out here, show me something, send me somebody, ask for help some way. If we don't do that, I'm not sure what the result is, but I would hope more folks would be like Kim here and be willing, no matter what comes of it, at least just be open and willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm still your friend. Come talk to me. I hope we can have something in the future, but if we can't, at least let's be normal humans to each other and try to love each other at some level, right? Is that basically your attitude?
Absolutely,
right now?
absolutely. There's no question, too. I was, my ex, it really gave me a very hard time on Twitter because I blocked a lot of QAnon followers from following me. And it was at the point in time, though, where Twitter was just inundated with, hundreds of thousands of QAnon people. And, a lot of them, if I dared to say anything critical, I was dumped on. I was just dumped on by all, they piled on. So I ended up having to block them now. And what's so interesting, I can call out QAnon today and I don't get a single QAnon person responding. So either they're all mostly gone, or they recognize, or those who might still exist in the Twitter sphere, they might be realizing, it seems, that QAnon isn't everything that they thought it was. I mean, there are definitely signs that there's a kind of a crack in that QAnon armor, if you will. As people like Jim Watkins and Ron Watkins have been exposed. And going back, some of us have known that some of this, us in kind of this inner circle of people have known about Ron Watkins from day one and have been watching and following him. So what has been exposed about Ron is not a surprise to any of us. I've been telling my ex forever, here are the players in QAnon. It's not a high-level military thing. There's no super secret anything. You're not getting advance notice of anything. So I think there is something to be, I think there is, without a doubt, I think there is a good number of people that are finally sort of recognizing that QAnon is not what they thought it was going to be.
Let's hope
it's incredible too that, as you said before, they're embracing Ron Watkins.
Oh yeah,
like after everything that's come out.
Like
yes,
this guy, like right? Is an example of what exactly?
What is this?
Anyway, now not to dump on somebody, but yeah, I mean, obviously it's clear he's not the one to be exhorting or encouraging for any reason.
Right.
In America, super patriot.
Yeah.
Anyways, completely. Hopefully, we're on the same page as the viewers here, and we're breaking through a little bit. I just had one final question for you, just out of for my curiosity. As far as you know, you might not know, the last 6 or 8 months, of this year, is your ex still deeply involved? Is he one of the ones coming out? Is he kind of questioning? Do you know any of that?
It's fascinating that you asked that, because there was a period of time a few months ago. Well, January 6th, everything went downhill. He put a for sale sign up at his house and sold his house, and he's moved out of state. Okay. Oddly enough, that was about, a week after he asked me to move back in with him because he wanted to, work on our relationship and work towards, whatever. And then he up and moved. Then back in, about April, he messaged me and was rethinking everything, was not sure that QAnon was in the right place. It was the right place for him to be. I think he believed that there was some bad news coming for Donald Trump. And it was fascinating. And then I'm not entirely sure what happened, but now in the last month or so, we were still talking. and he's back down in the hole again. I think he really believed that today was the day that Donald Trump is going to get reinstated as president. You know, that the world was supposed to go dark as a test last Wednesday, 2 days ago, and of course that didn't happen. And so today is the day then now that everything, you know, all communication in the world is supposed to go dark and so forth. So there keeps being these things that I think suck him back in for a period of time. But I'm hopeful that the more times these things happen and nothing happens, of course, eventually he's going to say, okay, yep, this is not reality. This was, I don't know if he'll ever get to the point where he'll agree that it was a hoax, but I think it is certainly, he's had his ups and downs in terms of how passionate he's been about the platform, if you will.
You mentioned the televangelist. Is the false prophecy surrounding Donald Trump, was he embroiled in that? Yes.
Not at first, just that's recent. That's been just this summer that all of a sudden he was starting to send me all of these video clips of these prophets talking about, and of course, you know, these televangelists all want you to send money. I mean, that's the big thing. You know, at the end of the day, it's all nothing but a grift, you know, but he seems to have firmly embraced some of these guys. Kim Clemente is one of them, who's dead, ironically, but you know, his stuff is still being shown on YouTube and they're still asking for money, you know, and so forth. But how he talks about how Donald Trump was, you know, this was prophesied, and the Bible can show you how and whatnot. And again, I showed these to my pastor, who was absolutely horrified.
Yeah.
So
as he should be. Yeah, I mean that's what this is me and Taryn, if you don't know us very well, this is our wheelhouse. We know these people, we know those who are following them, we know that those who are sharing their stuff, and not just recently. I mean, going back a year now.
Yeah.
But you tell right from the beginning, this is not legitimate. This is not from the Lord. So this is a huge, you know, like civil war. I don't want to really say, but like
right.
Internal strife in the body of Christ, and that's what really is messing folks up, and it's going to drive people away from the faith. Generally, I don't care what denomination you're in. I mean, you're going to leave because you see this craziness happening, and unstable people saying crazy stuff, and then you're going to, you know, prophet so and so is actually backing them up. So let's just throw this whole thing in the garbage. It's got to be used. You know, this has got to be false. The whole thing has got to be wrong.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's always the biggest danger. I would just say, I mean, at this point, Kim, you've been very gracious with your time. Is there anything else you wanted to say to folks, or maybe someone either who's in it or knows someone in your situation, and any words of wisdom to impart?
I guess from my standpoint, has everything to do with trying, and he and I would talk about creating this bridge, find a way to create a bridge, and forgiveness is important, you know, for those of us who are Christians and so forth. Forgiveness is the foundation of everything of who we are and what we do. Embracing our neighbors, get away from all the white supremacist stuff, get away from all of that crap, because that's the other big part of what QAnon has become. That's not how our country was founded. That is not, and that is certainly not what Jesus prescribes and how he wants us to be. So, you know, I guess looking at it from that perspective, find the ability to have forgiveness. Hard thing. Don't get me wrong. I get it. It's especially when you've been put through what a lot of families have been. But at least you'll have peace knowing that you've done what you can do to still love somebody, still forgive them. And maybe they'll never come back to you. Maybe they're done with you. but you've done what you can do so you can sleep at night.
Amen. Well, my sister, well said. I thank you very, very much for your time. Of course, you're welcome to come back anytime you
Thanks, you
want here on the
guys.
ResQ Show. So we bless you. We keep your ex in prayer. Maybe he
Yeah,
can come out of
thanks.
this thing, right? Amen.
Never know, but thank you. I really appreciate you reaching out and having the opportunity to talk about it. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Kim.
All right, Kim, everyone. Wonderful story. Well, in a bad, negative kind of way, I guess, but she's really kind of a light there, a beacon of how to do it. Even if you're faced with such cruddy circumstances, and that is forgiveness, right? Man. I just wanted to check the news. It's true, Donald Trump has not been reinstated today. Just wanted to let y'all know. I'm sorry, that's a little mockery, but really, I mean, people really have to be told that right now. There's this thing always going to be floating, and I've told folks, we've been telling folks since November last year. I had a conversation with a person, like, dude, we're just moving the goalposts. The next time it doesn't happen, it'll be a new date, and then it'll be a new date. And they're like, I know how this works. We've been through this movie before, and yet here we are, right now. But next August, now we're going to make a new date, and there's this symposium, and we're going to really figure things out now, and we're really going to expose stuff now, and at a certain point, we just got to give up, don't we? I just wanted, before we go, Taryn, I'm sorry. This is really what I think Kim was talking about. Let me just show you a photo here real quick. This is, of course, not going to work for people on the audio. This is what I'm calling the flow chart of deception. And this is what happened with Kim, which is you've got devious, not true stuff coming from wherever the source is, wherever you believe Q is or was or whatever group, whomever. They went direct to one source, right? Called 8kun now is the name out of whatever 8chan, all that stuff. Where it says up here, drop aggregators. This is what her significant other was looking at. Okay, so not even the direct source, but the aggregator. An aggregator is like a person who would intentionally go to the source material and just put on the juicy stuff. This is from Q, official Q stuff, official drop. Check it out. All right. Then it'll go to your bakers. In other words, they're your researchers. Do your research. They would take and say, "Oh, this is what it really means," or "Here's the clue here," or "Oh, here's what." A phrase from this movie or from this, TV show or poster or whatever. And that's where the conspiratorial stuff really takes off, which is where these websites come from. And then the social media influencers, again, which is what Kim was talking about with not only Jack Posobiec really isn't an influencer, but these YouTubers, QTubers, right, who came up and got big and popular and have hundreds of thousands of followers because they're just talking about Q drops and what it all means and what the next thing is to come and all that stuff. And then it finally gets to the rank and file believer, right? Which is a person who's accepted. Not even all of it. In fact, maybe not even a lot of it, but just some of it. It all leads to the same place. So anyways, just, I know some people are like, I don't know what any of this is about. Yeah, you do. You kind of do. All right, whether you know it or not, you're influenced by it, or you've heard it, or maybe you believed it. Maybe you didn't know the source, but that's where it's from. I mean, look back at our other episodes. 1 or 2 episodes ago, we went through this in pretty severe detail. How you might have picked up on believe stuff that isn't true, and this is where it's from. It's gross. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there, Taryn, before we wrap this week. Anything else on your mind?
I'm pondering the relationship breakdown in something like this. One can also use the wisdom that you glean from relationships kind of between people starting for the way the Q movement can hook people, wherein, like you're just kind of chasing clues, you're pursuing like things online, it's rather addictive. It's an addictive process. It probably releases dopamine, feel good chemicals to pursue what you think you think you're doing something very meaningful with your life.
It does, by the way. It does release those chemicals. Just to
Yeah.
back you up on it, yes, it's true.
Yeah, and any human relationship with someone abusive, when they say, this is going to happen, or I'm going to do this, and then they don't, you can be disappointed many times, by a parent, a sibling, a significant other, your spouse. You can be disappointed many times before you kind of say, you know what, I think this is going to happen every time. And I think that's why we see cute people continuing to pursue things after the predictions come out to be completely invalid and nothing happens, just like today. Maybe this will be the thing that really turns off a lot of people.
You're still in love, basically.
No,
is what you're saying. I mean, with this gross thing, you're like, it's kind of similar. You've developed this relationship. They're very exciting to you. You don't want to disappoint them. And then when they disappoint you, you kind of write it off. Yeah. Very.
And the political parties have a history of abusing one another to the point where we can believe all this evil of each other. It's not like we haven't been slugging it out in the most dirty, despicable fashion for decades.
Yeah, certainly our lifetimes. We're in our 40s, both of us. Sorry to say, but in this generation, I can see just 20 years ago, it was different. I mean, it was not like this, and it's yes. The point is, you're right. This culture has we are willing participants, right? It's not just affecting. We're not victims of it. We're actually participating in making it worse. When we give into this stuff, when we just assume the worst, when you vilify your fellow, even just in, like we were saying, politics, and just your fellow American, or your fellow citizen, your fellow state, your neighbor, literally. If you're willing to think they're subhuman in some way just because of whatever, that's a big danger, a big danger sign. And this is how all the atrocities in the world happen, guys. It's whether you're talking about the Holocaust, whether you're talking about genocides in Africa, or the killing fields, the communists in China, whatever. It's all the same stuff, really. At the end of the day, which is you're less you're subhuman, or you're out to get me, or you're conspiring against us, and it's just bad place. Anyways, but we're not all about negativity here at the ResQ Show. We do want to hear from you. As we said in the beginning, if you fit the description of either you're in it, you don't know what to do about it, maybe you know someone who is, you're concerned, whatever the case, we still do want to talk to you. Email us, pastormanti@protonmail.com is me, Tyrannosaurus at protonmail.com is her. That's secure email if you want to do that, or just reach out on Twitter as you see below. Our handle, just send us a direct message there. And Lord willing, we'll be back on again. What are we going to talk about next time?
Well, if you're in the Q movement, or you're somewhat in the Q movement, I'd love to talk to a guest like that. We would be kind to you.
Yes.
But I would I'd love you to come forward and give us your best shot at red pilling. That would be my dream. Yeah. And you all understand we're not part of the Q movement. We're going to be kind to you, and you're going to be kind, and we can have a constructive discussion. Maybe we'll all learn something.
I got my beverage. So whatever pills you want to slide over, we'll try it, right? We'll try it. See what happens. Yeah, ditto on that. All right, friends. All right. Till next time. That's Taryn. I'm Chris, and if we can do anything for you at all, if you have any assistance or any help, please just let us know. Reach out. In the meantime, share this, like it. Sharing those most important. Go to the website, fill out the forms, go see the resources, stay up to date, and we'll see you next time. All right, guys. Remember, and the truth is out there, and he is a man, and he's willing to save you. All right. See you guys.
And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.